Okay, let's get started a bit earlier today because, well, I have to run at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and we do have a guest coming on a bit later. But since I'm ready, we'll get started a bit earlier over here. How's everyone doing? I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another stream. A little early, yes, Andrew. Hey, how's it going? Andrew, you know Scott, right? You're also on Flyer Talk, as I take it. Scott is our guest later on. He's the Canadian cow himself, and I'm excited to have him on. Those of you who are familiar with his work, I'm sure that you will be excited to also have a chance to thank him for the invaluable tool that he's made for the community. And I'm excited to get his perspective on how that tool came about, what it was like programming it, and what are his thoughts as kind of the person who made that tool, and also get some of his perspectives on just travel and flying around in general, because I know he's a big fan of that. And yeah, maybe have some of you guys introduced to the mind behind the AC rewards based searcher. So I'm just going to link that here. I'm going to pop that link in here. If you've watched our travel and chill live streams from back in the summer, back in I think episode 4 or 5 is when I had actually demonstrated this tool live in action, and it's honestly, yeah, it's a bit of a godsend because it just saves so much time when you're searching for award space and when you're searching for the flights that you can book in all sorts of different cabins. So I'm going to link that here. That's the tool that I've been using all the time to find exactly the flights I need, and it's been invaluable. So I'm excited to have Scott on, and I'm excited to chat. In the meantime, 10 minutes until we bring him on. How's everybody been doing since the last time we spoke, which was 2 weeks ago? I've been down to the US and then back. I'm now back in Toronto. Maybe some of you might remember this background from previous YouTube videos. The house here is pretty empty, and there's actually not even a light here in this office, so it might get a little bit dark later. And I appreciate you guys putting up with that as we, as I'm kind of in between places this week. But yeah, so I'm here in Toronto for the next week or so. Back to Vancouver next weekend. The following weekend is our Vancouver signature event for Prince of Travel, and we've got, I think, 2 tickets left before it's reached its capacity. So if you're interested, 2 tickets left, better take action. We have a question up here from Joel Franks, and yeah, Joel. So if you're interested in the merchandise and stuff like that from Prince of Travel, then absolutely the first place that you can possibly pick that up is over at the signature event in Vancouver in a couple weeks. After that, we're gonna have an online store at some point before the end of the year, but the soft launch is gonna be at the event itself, and I'm really excited for that. Really excited for people to get some of their hands on some of the stuff that we've been making. Andrew, the PNR viewer, I'm not sure I'm familiar with that, but I think it's the one that, I take it you enter your PNR and it gives you a whole bunch of stats about your itinerary, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've come across it a couple times, but that's also something that, yeah, we can kind of get Scott to chat about, kind of the thought process behind making those tools. I'm gonna pull it up right now, see if I can. PNR, and it gives you. Oh yeah, PNR viewer. All right, canadiancow.com is actually where all of this is hosted. So another tool for you guys to potentially check out. Enter your last name and your PNR, and I take it you get a bunch of information that's potentially valuable that I haven't tried it, but I imagine, okay, so full fare basis, earning rates, SQD, so all the info in one place that you may not get on your Air Canada booking confirmation page. Yeah, so I'm excited to have Scott on and chat a little bit about his experiences as a Air Canada frequent flyer and someone who's really loyal to the airline, I guess. I know he's like a million miler, something like that. So range of topics we can cover. If you guys have any thoughts or ideas, or if you just want to like profusely thank him for making these tools, then you can also shout here in the chat as well. And we'll go for the hour until 8 p.m. Eastern, and then I got to go run. Got some dinner plans that are already pushed back. But I hope everyone's having a good weekend so far. And you know, as summer turns to fall, I hope everybody is hanging in there, doing well. Hopefully, you know, travel still looking, can't say it's looking very certain, but there's glimmers of hope here and there. I'm hearing whispers of some Asian countries exploring a departure from the zero COVID policies. And it's going to be interesting to see how kind of those policies, those whispers, turn into potential actual changes to the policies as we go through the winter, as we go through spring 2022, because that's kind of the target date that a lot of people maybe have in mind for some of the more of the world opening up. Yeah, we'll answer a few quick questions here as we go. Have you ever been asked for the COVID test results on the Air Canada flights into the US? Yep, so the Air Canada staff will always ask for your antigen or PCR tests. It's a government requirement that the airlines enforce on the government's behalf. These days, if you're traveling to the US, you also have the option, if it's on Air Canada, to upload your test results beforehand, and that should save you some time and give you some peace of mind as you go to the airport. But the last stage that you can do it is right at the gate as you're boarding. And if you don't have it, you'll just be denied boarding. All right, you guys hang here for a bit. I'm gonna go grab my earphones so that we don't have that feedback with the audio when I'm chatting with Scott. I'll be right back. Hey guys, Violet, Lab Tech Superstar, some familiar faces and names as always. Nobody's late to the party. You guys are all early and I'm early because why not get a bit of early chatter in before our guest arrives. Violet, are you in, you're in Toronto now, for sure. Good evening. It's interesting doing one of these streams from Eastern time rather than from Pacific time. It's yeah, it's actually about to get dark. It might get dark over here. Like I mentioned, lighting in this room isn't great, so appreciate you guys putting up with that. All right, Anwar. How best to use CIBC Aventura points? Great question. There's no real good answer. Aventura points aren't that powerful in the first place. So if you can achieve anything greater than 1 cent per point in returns, I would take it. Recently, I think there's been promo for gas gift cards that you can even get like 1.3, 1.4 cents per point. That's not a bad use. Potentially, you could redeem it for economy class flights within North America, or within, they have a certain award chart where you can get like X amounts off the base fare, and you could theoretically get over 2 cents per point for your Aventura points, but it really only makes sense if you were going to purchase that cash fare in the first place, if that makes sense. Thomas, BC COVID passport, you've gotten the screenshot but no option to download it. I don't have, sorry, I don't have probably as much input as I should have on that. I need to get mine sorted too, especially before our event, right, Thomas? And okay, so by the way, guys, if you have like super advanced, or if you have any Aeroplan questions, or Aeroplan, Air Canada, elite status, even the credit cards, even the points, questions of that nature, let's keep it to when Scott joins us. Scott is very loyal Air Canada flyer. He very often corrects us on like the articles we publish, especially on some of the more niche subjects around Aeroplan elite status and stuff like that. He'll be like, this is wrong. So you've got to fix it. And so that happens a lot. So if he's going to be somebody who can answer a lot of these questions about some of those technical stuff. So yeah, Victor, starts at 7 officially, but sometimes I'll surprise you guys. So go back and watch it later on. You haven't missed much. I just thought I'd pop on early to chat before Scott joins, which he should be soon at about exactly 7 o'clock sharp. New York was great. New York is back. The city's back, and it was awesome to be able to experience some of that. It's good to see. The city is obviously a pillar of strength throughout. Hey, Paul, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that, and I'm just happy to be able to deliver value for you guys. And with that said, we've got Scott here, so let's welcome him in. Scott, are you there?
Hey.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You're doing good? Glad to hear it. I guess I'd like to start with who you are, but before that, why don't we start with where you are right now?
I'm currently at Vancouver Airport. I'm in a connection. I was in Calgary over the weekend, and I'm flying home to San Francisco. So I found a secluded gate at Bravo 27, and yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining us in the middle of your journey. I recall that you had to like move some flights around for this, so really appreciate that. Really appreciate you making the time. But I take it like these kinds of, like fun routings and long layovers in airports isn't exactly anything new to you. I take it you're a fairly frequent flyer with Air Canada.
Yeah, a little bit.
1 million miles now?
Yeah, I hit 1 million miles last year in the travel at home promotion. I was at about 978 before that, so the 25 kicked me over the limit.
Awesome. Okay, so you're a very loyal Air Canada frequent flyer. You travel very often. I guess this community here at Prince of Travel knows you best for being the mind behind AC Reward Space Searcher, right? That's the tool that got everybody excited. Obviously added a lot of value to people's lives, being able to, search for award space just a lot easier than the Aeroplan search engine, as a lot of the people here in the chat can attest to. So we're just curious, like who's the person behind that? what motivated you to like to make that, and how was the process along it? So maybe, yeah, let us know a little bit about yourself, and kind of what brought you to making that tool in the first place that we all know and love.
Okay, so yeah, like I'm a software engineer for my day job, and I've been doing it for a decade. So I've got a lot of software experience, and whenever I see issues like that seem like they have a technical solution, I like to try to build something. I had built something for the old Aeroplan program, but it was just something I would use myself, and it could kind of do some of the same stuff, but not nearly as nice as the new one. But it was just the Air Canada website is just so slow. I was getting tired of having to like search day by day for everything, and they kept talking about how the calendar was coming out in the next few weeks, and I think that was 6 months ago. So I just got tired of waiting, and I decided to build my own thing, and try to build something that would let me find the flights that I want to redeem my points on.
For sure. And was that a challenging thing, or was it that the website was pretty easy to like figure out how it worked and then just build something to do on the front end?
The initial version took me an hour.
Nice, nice. I mean, I think it's like it almost feels like magic compared to the original search tool. So for a lot of people, it's a very impressive feat. But for a software engineer, I think I imagine it was pretty easy to figure out.
Yeah.
And walk us through some of the other tools you've got. Andrew here in the chat mentioned that there's a PNR viewer. What's the benefit of that? What's the value that's being brought to the user there?
So a lot of like there's everyone's having a lot of schedule changes these days because they keep canceling flights due to lack of demand for COVID, and that would result in a lot of PNRs that had like segments in weird states. And so the PNR tool just lets you pull up a PNR, and it'll show you useful information like if your segments are confirmed or canceled, or if you've had a time change. It lets you see that your frequent flyer numbers on it. I recently added a special meal indicator because the Air Canada Flight Pass app keeps giving me an Asian vegetarian meal even though I don't want it, and so it was useful to see things like that. But just a quick way to pull up a PNR and make sure everything's confirmed and ticketed.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I haven't used that one myself, but I'm gonna give it a go. I've got like a bunch of 16 segment around the world on like different Star Alliance airlines, which it works for, right? Like I can see all of that easily.
Yeah, it should work for everything.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pretty sweet. Okay, so you're a software engineer in your day job. You work on these tools for fun, and then you also do a fair bit of flying for fun. I take it it's like, I mean, I take it it's not very often you see somebody who flies for leisure as much as you do, right? So how long have you been at this, like at the Air Canada frequent flying game, and how'd you get started? And yeah, like what's your story? What's the story of somebody who earns super elite in 1 million miles almost organically, I guess, through spend? Because that's not somewhat a type of character we deal with a lot here in this space.
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in Toronto. I went to the University of Waterloo for computer engineering, and then I worked in Toronto for about a year out of school. But then I got poached by a company in San Francisco, so I moved to San Francisco in late 2012, and so that's when I kind of started flying. And I looked at like how I could make my experience better because I was just buying cheap economy tickets, and it wasn't fun doing 5 or 6 hours in Y. But so I got on Flyer Talk and I started to realize, oh, if I route it, add a couple connections, I can hit 50K next year, and then I'll be able to upgrade things and have lounge access and things like that. And then I just, I started flying more for fun, and so that 50K became super elite in 2013, and ever since then I've been super elite, and just keep booking lots of flights and flying. And like I know because we've been trying to sort this Zoom out for a while, but it's like I'm
Yeah.
literally traveling like every weekend between now and the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. So that's super interesting to me because, like a love of flying and an enthusiasm for that is something we can all relate to. But the actual spending hard-earned dollars on it is, that's I think compared to maybe some of the flyer talk crowd, and we're going to talk a bit more about that, I guess. But here in the Prince of Travel community, we're all about, right, like um, taking our credit card points and trying to earn them as cheaply as possible and then redeem them for very high value. And I'm curious if you've ever, crossed paths with that world. Are you somebody who maximizes your Aeroplan credit cards and tries to squeeze value out of that? Or is it like, okay, software engineer salary, I love flying, I'm just gonna spend a bunch of disposable income on it?
So like, I bought $2,500 of coins from the mint a few years ago. Like, I have signed up for a couple credit cards, but most of it's just like spend on credit cards or just real flying. Um, okay. I put about $60,000 through my TD Aeroplan card in the last statement through Mogo and crypto. But
Mm.
that was I really needed to hit the 10,000, and it's so hard for me to get Canadian spend living in San Francisco. But maybe I took that a little further than I intended. But for the most part, like I don't do much churning or manufactured spending or anything. But I don't know if the opportunity comes along, like why not?
It sounds like you're like familiar with that world and hear about, parts of it here and there, and you'll participate casually, but maybe not, taking things to the same level of dedication that some do.
Yeah, I don't have a wallet of 30 credit cards like some people, but I respect it.
Yeah, it's just different kinds of hustle, right? That's how I would frame it. What do you so you spend your way to super elite every year, and fly your way to super elite. Is that something that like you found lots of value in over the years? And what's the we hear a lot about the magic that the concierge works for super elite members, and oftentimes it seems like it's so inaccessible to people who aren't super elites, and it's always kind of mysterious what kind of benefits those actually are. So what are some of the most tangible ways that, let's say, concierge has helped you out over the years, and being a super elite in general?
Yeah, I mean, so Friday night I was flying San Francisco, Vancouver, Calgary, and the flight was going to get me into Calgary after midnight, and so I wanted to take an earlier one, but that was a 34-minute connection, so I couldn't book it. And the check-in agent at San Francisco couldn't get us on standby, so I called the concierge, and she was having the same issue, but she said it was due to the connection time being too short. But she sent a message through to Vancouver, and while I was on the flight up to Vancouver, our names showed up on the standby list. And when we landed, there was a concierge waiting for us with our names on a sign, and he took us up the escalator, put us in a golf cart, drove us to the transit immigration. And then we went through that in the Nexus line, and he was on the other side. He had another golf cart, drove us to the gate. So like that's an example where it meant I got to Calgary at like 9:30 instead of midnight, which was invaluable to me. But most of the time it's stuff like that where like all I wanted was to be put on the standby list, but they went above and beyond and gave me two golf cart rides and made my experience much smoother.
They managed to help you make that connection time that was lower than the minimum connection time. It couldn't have been issued on one ticket, but they basically just cobbled it together.
Yep.
Yeah. So it does sound like very much like a personal point of contact or a team that you can kind of just contact to take care of any of your Air Canada needs. The other day I was stuck in U.S. immigration. I got the Quad S as I was crossing the border at Pearson. So Quad S, for those of you who aren't familiar, is like secondary inspection at the U.S. border, right? And I was just in line. Was that a situation where if I were super elite, I could just call in and say, like I'm going to be 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes late. Is it possible to hold the plane? Are they actually going to hold the plane for super elites? How often does that actually happen?
No, that never happens.
Okay. But they did delay the flight by 15 minutes because I think a lot of us were stuck in U.S. immigration, but it took me a bit longer. So it would be nice. Super Elite then has a $20,000 spend requirement, and that was introduced a few years ago, right? That the whole status qualifying dollar requirement. So I take it you were a Super Elite before that. What was kind of the consensus among Super Elite members in terms when that was introduced? And yeah, was there a lot of like drop off there? And also, what would you say, in your view, like what are your thoughts on that spend threshold for people who are maybe on the fence about whether or not to pursue that level?
Um, so yeah, a lot of people complained about it, but those were also the people spending $5,000 or $6,000 a year to get super elite. So I assume a lot of the people watching this right now, don't really want to spend 20,000 a year on it. But for the people who are buying premium tickets and flying a lot for work, what I noticed was after that spend threshold kicked in, the next year, like concierge service got so much better. There was no San Francisco concierge before that. Now there is. Well, okay, not right now due to COVID, but normally
Mm.
there is. And I just found the service got a lot better after they instituted the dollar requirements. But again, I don't try to spend the money. I buy a lot of Latitude flight passes. I don't buy too many normal priced J tickets, but I buy some. Most of the time I look for mistake fares and cheap sales places, but just like I book a lot of last minute tickets from San Francisco to various parts of Canada. So like the flight passes I buy, they get me to the threshold. And as a non-resident, I only need 10,000, not 20. But
Mhm.
2020 was the first year I didn't hit $20,000. It's pretty easy to spend that much money when you're flying Air Canada within North America.
I see. Okay, I am curious that non-resident have the SQD requirement. How strict is that? Like, do they verify, and if so, with what?
I know one person who was audited, and I don't know what the result of that was, and I don't recall. I don't think he actually lives in the U.S., but he put a U.S. address on. But like I'm hitting the 20,000, so I've never experienced any kind of audit. But my travel
Mhm.
activity, like I'm leaving San Francisco and coming back to San Francisco, so you can look at my history, and it's pretty clear I live in the U.S.
I see. Okay. Okay. And then, so, since we're chatting about super elites, we've got a couple of fellow super elite members here in the chat as well. And sometimes because of, what we're talking about, how most of, let's say, Prince of Travel's audience, we're all about maximizing and without having to spend. That's kind of also the values that we promote here at the brand. But we do attract, some of the super elites who are also interested. And so sometimes they feel, some of the feedback I've gotten from super leads is that their perspectives are underrepresented in some of the content that we put out. So here on the chat, as a fellow super lead here, we can start with, let's say, the new Aeroplan, right? The new Aeroplan that came out in November 2020. What's been your take on it as a top tier member? Because it's kind of been a program with varying impacts depending on who you are. So what's the top tier perspective?
For me, the priority rewards are the only real change that I haven't figured out yet. Like it was really nice before to be able to book basically any seat with the normal number of points on any Air Canada flight. And now I have to do a lot more planning because I normally try to use my points for first class, not business class, but the priority rewards only get me business. And I actually had a trip in May. I booked two one ways, no priority rewards. They were business class, but if I'd known what I was going to fly, I could have used a priority reward. But I thought I was trying to get first
Mm.
class on the way back, and it didn't work out. So I feel like it's going to require a lot more planning on my part to actually make use of the priority rewards. I think I have like six right now, and I have no idea when I'm going to use them. But otherwise, the new program's pretty similar. Like not much has changed for me. Like yeah, like redeeming points. I already didn't use them on Air Canada much, and now I'm never going to use the points on Air Canada. Uh, but that's easy living in San Francisco. If I want to go to Asia, I'm going to fly ANA. If I want to go to Europe, I'm going to fly Lufthansa. But I don't like Air Canada is fine for getting me to Toronto, but I don't really want to fly them further than that.
Got you. A couple of thoughts there. One, yeah, the old priority rewards, as I understand it, were very powerful, being able to access any last seat Air Canada business class space. I take it they wanted to remove some of that power from super elites. The new priority rewards, you mentioned you have six worldwide business priority rewards, which, as you can maximize the value if you were to book like super complex round the world trips, right? All in business class. So let's just say if you can't find a use for them, I'm sure some people here in the chat today might be interested in having you book something for them using points that are somehow transferred over to your account. So I'm just putting that idea out there for both yourself for some sort of cash compensation and the people in the chat here.
Yeah, I'm going to go on the record and say that I'm not going to sell any points or priority rewards.
Of course, of course. That's always the prudent approach. We have a super chat here in the chat here, which is like somebody's decided to support the channel and ask a question that hopefully we'll be able to answer. I don't know how much experience you have, Scott, with programs outside of Star Alliance. Do you also dabble with One World and SkyTeam?
A little bit. I mean, like within the US, I typically just buy whatever airline makes the most sense for me. So I've got like some Delta points here, some American points, but like I have millions of Aeroplan points and I have, I don't know, a couple 100,000 in other airline programs. So I don't do too much in other programs.
So you're not one of those people who pursue status across different alliances.
I don't think I'd be able to get anything useful. I had American Platinum for a year and I wasn't super impressed with it, but I've never had anything above American Platinum on another program.
True. Yeah. Speaking of American Platinum, we've got somebody in the chat here who's asking if so they're a platinum member, but they're based in Canada, and the platinum's set to expire in January 2022. So, yeah, I mean, if you're a One World flyer, you're based in Canada, my advice would be consider switching to AC and Star Alliance. I don't know if you've got any further thoughts on that, Scott.
I mean, in Canada, yeah, that would probably be my recommendation. I've thought about switching over to United a couple times, being based at SFO, but most of my flights are either to Canada or on points, so it doesn't really make a difference to me. But yeah, I don't know. Air Canada works for me. I know it wouldn't work for everyone, but I fly them most often, so I earn status with them.
What do you make of, I don't know if you feel strongly about it, but they're set to change the way that points are earned on flights, right? Like redeemable points. Now, a lot of, for me, a lot of our viewers, we don't necessarily purchase lots of flights, but when we do, it's nice to have some earnings coming into our account. So they're set to change that to become revenue based. As somebody who purchases a lot of flights, especially as a super elite, what's your thoughts on that and just the general direction towards revenue based everything with loyalty programs, right? On both the earning and redeeming side.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why they do it. They want to reward the people who are spending lots of money, not the people who are buying mistake fares. But for me, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. There'll be some flights where I earn a bit more, some where I earn a bit less, but overall, I think I'll earn about the same. But they haven't fully released the details there. Like one of my super elite select benefits is that I can pick a 100% bonus on miles earned. And I don't know what that means under the revenue program, because I don't know if that means I'll get like, I don't know, 14 per dollar, 11 per dollar, something else. But those details would affect my opinion a lot too.
I think I have asked them about that before. I think it was 11x, as I recall.
Okay, so then that would be a little better than United, because that'd be 11 per Canadian dollar versus United's 11 per US dollar. So I think it's reasonable. I'm happy with that, I guess.
I also don't think they've truly committed to it, because they keep saying later 2021, as I recall, and now it's September. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes, right?
They've got some problems to work through there, though. Like I had a $500 flight that posted as $1. I had a $500 flight that posted as $1,000. So like I don't trust them to get this working anytime soon. So I don't know when they're actually going to launch it.
Okay. Yeah, and I suppose it is because of that distrust of them getting things right that you've gone to the lengths you have to make these tools that we all appreciate. Speaking of which, we have a question here in the chat from Fire Breathing Rubber Ducky. Scott, do you think that Air Canada will put up roadblocks that will stop your search tool from working? And yeah, I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, because we've seen these kind of tools float around the internet before, and sometimes the airlines put up proprietary access and put up roadblocks. What's your take on it?
I mean, if they sent me an email and asked me to take it down, I would. Like they don't have to do any technical roadblocks, but it's been up long enough. It's not getting that much usage. Like the usage tripled after you first talked about it, but it's still like I don't know, 1,000 people or 1,000 queries a day. It's not impacting them much yet. If that were to change, then they might want to stop it. But like, they clearly like this community. They spend a lot of time, talking to you and other people in this community. So it's helping this community. So I don't really see them doing anything as long as the usage stays the same. But I've certainly been monitoring usage, and I'm debating adding some kind of authentication and logging just so that I can stop anyone from really abusing it. But I don't know. I'm really a lazy person, and that takes a lot of work, so I haven't done it yet.
Interesting. And when you say abusing it, and the way that Air Canada would be affected by it would just be like too much search volume placing an undue load on their servers and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think there's something to be said for airlines deliberately making like the whole concept of award space a little bit opaque so that it's not just too accessible to people?
I don't think the airlines really care. I mean, like, I've had some people message me and tell me that it's making it harder for them to get space because if I make it easy for
Yeah.
everyone to find the space, then the space disappears. But I don't know. Like, I could have kept the whole thing private. Like, I have other tools I've built that are private. I like they're for me or a couple of close friends. But I thought this would be useful enough to other people that it was worth sharing. But yeah, I don't know. Like they book revenue when you redeem the points, so it's good for them if you're using your points.
Yeah. They get liabilities off the books, right? Yeah. Um, okay, so I imagine those private tools, they're like basically for printing millions of Aeroplan points then, based on the magic that this one delivers.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so on this topic, Alex here has a question about what are your thoughts on why I guess it takes so long for Air Canada to come out with like calendar search, multi-city. When we have them on as guests, we can kind of appreciate that there's difficulties and challenges along the process. But yeah, from somebody who just uses it a lot and who has been familiar with both the old and new Aeroplan search systems, what's your take on the challenges there?
Um, so my understanding is like, 10 years ago, everything was outsourced and everything they had really sucked. All the technology I've seen them build in the last couple of years, I've actually been really impressed with it. But when you get into airline systems, like at the end of the day, like they're talking to Amadeus and they can't
Mhm.
really control that. And I don't know the details, but it's slow. And if they launch a calendar, well, that might quadruple their search volume against their own systems every day. If I launch a search tool, it's negligible to them because very few people are using it relative to how many people just go to aircanada.com. So they have to be able to build it in a scalable manner that isn't going to take down the whole site when people decide to search for things. Whereas I can be, more liberal and allow things to happen that, you know, at their scale would not work.
Right. Well, we can hope that at least. Have you tried booking stopovers yet? Any
Uh,
frustrations to share?
I I've had enough trouble trying to book like a simple one way where they're trying to like charge me two one-way prices and like I don't know. I've done very little with points under the new program. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to trying to call in and do a stopover or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, it's not a very fun process. That's for sure. Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about your experiences, using points for fun flights, because I know you like to dabble in that side of it as much as we do. You mentioned you prefer first class, and over the years, what have been some of your favorite experiences up in the sky with your points?
Um, I think my favorite flight was Cathay first class. So that obviously wasn't booked with Aeroplan, but it was probably one of the best experience I had. But I've flown ANA, Singapore, Lufthansa, Swiss, Thai. Uh, I think I've done most of the Star Alliance first classes other than Air India and Air China, but I don't really have any desire to do those two.
Okay, I'd say I'm pretty much on par with you there. Yeah, I've done the Star Alliance first classes, the major ones. You've done Etihad, I assume, too.
Nope.
Oh, you
I
haven't?
tried to do it in May, but the timing didn't work out for me, so I wasn't able to fly it. I haven't done any of the Middle Eastern airlines.
Okay. So still a couple of goals left for you. But yeah, the major Star Alliance ones. Have you done any like super convoluted routings around the world, which was very much possible under the old program, still to some extent now? Or are you more of a direct, luxurious flight and back kind of person?
I've done one like mini around the world in 2018, I think. So, a friend of mine quit his job and he wanted to take a 3 week trip around the world, so I joined him, and that was San Francisco, LA, Seoul, Tokyo, ooh, uh,
It's hard to
Bangkok.
recall, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, we flew. There were a lot of segments on that ticket, two stopovers, lots of first class. I think we paid about $1,000 in change fees between the two of us. So I'm very happy that changes are free for me now.
That was so under the old program, they didn't do, I thought they also did free changes for super elites.
There was 1 year where they gave super elites one free change, but
Mm,
um, they had to write Aeroplan a check every time they did that, so they took it away.
right. Because it was separate back in the day. Cool. Awesome. And all right, so here in the chat, we've got somebody who's been asking for a while about how priority standby and priority upgrade works with Aeroplan Reserve Card. I'm curious to hear, we'll answer the question, but I'm curious to hear what's your credit card situation right now, right? You said you don't really dabble in the churning side of it, but surely you've got the right cards in place to maximize your travel and lifestyle. So what does your wallet look like? And yeah, how do you kind of use that to maximize the flights that you book and everything else?
So on the Aeroplan side, I have the TD Infinite Privilege. I rolled over 188,000 qualifying miles last year, so like I'm getting lots of benefit out of that card. Um, in terms of the priority standby and upgrades for that, I'm a super elite million miler. I'm always at the top of the list anyway. I haven't noticed that make a difference for me yet, but for the rest of my wallet, I live in the US. I have the Chase Sapphire Reserve. I have the US Amex Platinum, Chase Freedom Unlimited. Uh, those are the main ones I use for buying things. I've got the Hilton, I don't know, the expensive Hilton one that gets me diamond status. But yeah, I've been looking at like changing up what I use for my primary credit cards, but I got a mortgage earlier this year, so I was trying not to screw with my credit too much. But that's over now, so I'm mostly just waiting for the Chase Aeroplan card to see what that's about
Mhm.
because they've got the 524 rule, so I don't want to apply for too many cards before that comes out because I might want that. I don't know. We'll see what it offers.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Before we continue on that, just to answer Armand's question here, like Scott mentioned, the premium card does come with the standby and upgrade benefit, and the way it works is basically as long as you have, as long as you're a card holder and you attach your Aeroplan number to your booking, then those benefits automatically kick in. So I actually think it's quite well executed the way they basically have you as like credit card holder as a like almost a status. And then as long as you attach your number, then all those benefits just automatically apply. I think that's been pretty smooth. So yeah, back to the Chase Aeroplan card. Let's have some of your predictions. I mean, you are based in the US, you're a Chase customer. It seems like Air Canada is making a play for the US with the Chase transfer partner with the Chase Aeroplan Mastercard. It seems like they want to carve out some market share over there. What do you think is in the pipeline there? And like, if you were them, how would you kind of capture the US traveler who might be on the fence or who might be susceptible to being captured?
Um, yeah, so with my Chase Sapphire Reserve, I get 3 points per dollar on any travel spend, and I can transfer that 1-to-1 to Aeroplan now. With my Amex Platinum, any flights I buy directly from the airline get me 5 points per dollar. So, like, if they want me to use this card for anything, it's going to have to be competitive with that. And I don't know. I have doubts. I don't think it will be.
Hmm. I don't think it can be up to 5x if it's a 95 US dollar fee, right? That'll be tricky. Do you see any unique benefits perhaps coming to the Chase Aeroplan Mastercard?
Um, uh, People send me information on things all the time, and someone did mention that it should give you. I think it'll give you 25K status right out the door. But I
Wow.
have nothing to back that up with. So
Okay. We're happy to talk about stuff that people tell you, we're happy to. So Aeroplan 25K status. Okay, if that happens, that's something that I feel like just my first impression is may leave some Canadians feeling a bit disgruntled, but also could be a motivation to like get into those credit cards and just hold on to that card in perpetuity too. Interesting. All right. We obviously love speculation, especially here on the stream. It's not exactly an official platform. We're just here to chat. And on that similar vein, potentially a new Canadian card. Any thoughts?
oh
I
yeah,
know, I
I
know
mean,
you've been.
yeah, some fancy Amex that'll give you 50K status, but I get like that's all the details I have, and I don't know if it's true.
I know, yeah. So with the caveat that we don't know if this is true, but Scott has the details. Again, speculative at this stage. We did a previous travel and chill where we were watching the Aeroplan execs live stream with Anshul, and Mark was talking about a new Air Canada family product that would grant access to the signature suite. And so I personally, and again, pure speculation, can't help but see the alignment there between if there's a new super fancy Amex coming, I could definitely see that being a perk, signature suite access, even on. I mean, what do you think? Like, if it happens, it's not going to be available for economy class tickets, right? You've got to be on business or any ticket, you get access.
Uh, I don't know. I mean, if I'd get that card if I could,
Yeah.
but or at least once the signature suite's open again. But yeah, I have no idea how it would work. Because I think even people with VIP status, they still need to be in business class to get into the signature suite, but they can be upgrades or booked on like business lowest rewards or things like that. But they are pretty exclusive about letting people in there.
You've been to the signature suite in Toronto.
Yeah, several
You like
times.
we all know about its like space constraints and stuff. So I mean, I take it that they can't really open it up too much without running into troubles.
Yeah, especially I mean pre-COVID, you got into like the evening bank of Europe departures, and it was packed. Um,
Hmm.
I've also been there in like off-peak times where there's been three people in the whole thing, and like that's a much better experience. It's by far the best business class lounge I've ever been in, and it's better than some of the first
Really?
class lounges I've been in.
So you're saying it's better than, well, United Polaris, I assume? Uh,
Oh, the food of the Signature Suite is so much better. Like United Polaris,
okay.
like it's like I like the burger on Air Canada in economy
Yeah.
class. That doesn't mean it's a good burger. Like Polaris, the food's fine. It's better than paying for airport food or eating on the plane. But like the Signature Suite food is pretty good. I actually think some of the Signature Suite food is better than the Hawksworth restaurant in Vancouver.
Wow. And Chef Hawksworth is supposed to be the one catering it, right? It's
Yep.
funny. I have heard that the restaurant is maybe not as good as it is hyped sometimes, but I've yet to try it myself. Okay, so you said it's better than even some first class lounges too.
Yeah, like not Lufthansa, not the private room, but like
Uh-huh.
certainly the old United Global First lounges.
Oh, okay.
Asiana's first class lounges were pretty poor in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's a business class lounge, not a first class lounge. So you should really only compare it to other business class lounges.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, certainly and I'm sure many of us in the community are really looking forward to that opening up again because we've got our business flexible tickets booked to be able to access. And I mean, that feels like a generous move upon the program's launch. But apparently, the business flexible premium is supposed to also increase once the signature suite opens. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, it's like right now it seems to be about 10,000 points, which is about the most I'd pay to get into the signature suite. But if it goes
Mhm.
above that, especially as a super elite, like I already have free changes, free cancellations. The only benefit I'd get would be signature suite access. And I'm not going to spend like $500 of points to go in. I'd pay 100, maybe $200 if I'm going to be there for 6 hours or something, but I'm not going to spend more than that.
Awesome. Um, I wanted to switch gears a little bit and ask you about your experience with a certain competition that I've never covered at Prince of Travel, but I know you're very enthusiastic about. And I think it'd just be very fascinating to hear from somebody who has dominated that competition and just how that competition even exists and what it's all about. Because I'm sure some Prince of Travel readers and viewers have come across it and just thought like, how are there people winning this? So obviously, I'm talking about Air Canada's Earn Your Wings, right, which they've held a few years in a row. I think pre-COVID. And so very popular among dedicated frequent flyers, maybe a bit of a mystery from the outside. Why don't you share with us what exactly Earn Your Wings is, how it works, and how you came to be, one of the legends of the game?
Sure. I mean, the first thing I want to say is that it's absolutely horrible. None of you should ever sign up or do it. I don't want the competition. Um, but yeah, it's they've basically like gamified flying. So they've run 8 of them now. Number 2 was really stupid, but the
Wow.
other 7 were awesome. But basically, like they'll have badges that you can earn. So like they might have a West Coast badge, and if you visit 3 of the West Coast cities that they fly to, you'll earn a West Coast badge, which is then worth some number of wings. And then there's a leaderboard, and the past few contests, everyone in the top 10 at the end get 1,000,000 Aeroplan points. And then like 11 to 30 each get 500,000, and then they below that you get upgrade credits or like rental car discount codes. I don't know. But below that it gets not too exciting, but yeah. So I think the first one I did, I used pen and paper and had help from another flyer talker and plotted out a little itinerary, and that got me in the top 25, which is what mattered then. But uh, for the third contest, uh, my roommate got really excited about it. She's also a software engineer, and so we spent, I don't know, basically an entire weekend just writing software to plot out itineraries and stuff. So these days, like when they launch a new one, I just plug in the new rules and click run, and 10 minutes later, it gives me like a 9 day, 10 segment a day itinerary, and then I can just book that. So it's not cheap. You have to pay for your tickets, and it's required Flex and up for the past 5 years or something. So it's certainly not cheap, but I enjoy doing it. It's helped me qualify for Super Elite many times, and then the million Aeroplan points is always useful. But the actual flying can be difficult. The way I do it, like 10 flights a day. My first flight's at 5:30 a.m. Last flight gets me in at 1 a.m. So I'm getting very little sleep. The hotels are more for the showers than the beds,
Mhm.
but uh, it's hard on the body. And as I get older, it gets harder. But it's fun, and I've been able to do it with friends before. I think the I think I've done like a 4 day itinerary, like 40 segments with. I think there were 7 of us for one of those weekends. So there's a lot of us who like doing it, and we all know each other and we like to fly together. But it's hard to get a good itinerary, and it's hard on the body to fly anything crazy. But the I was actually having dinner with the guy who's been consistently number one the past few years, and I mean, he's retired. He's got a lot more time, so he can fly between his 2 homes and have pretty leisurely routes there, and consistently be number one. Whereas I'm trying to cram it all into like as short a time as possible, and that's why I have to do 10 a day, like all day long. But yeah, it's been fun. If they do another one, I will definitely sign up. But yeah, don't compete with me because I will not be happy.
Okay, so you're showing up to the airport at ungodly hours in the morning. You're flying for the whole day on sometimes like narrow body turboprops, puddle jumpers, and you are spending your own money doing this on flex fares, not just standard fares. You can't redeem points for these flights; you have to pay for them, and ultimately, in the end, yeah. So in your case, you take time off work to do so too, right?
Yep.
Okay. And the prize is for the fun and the million aeroplan points at the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
So
it's it's fun. Actually, I can't do it alone. I need someone with me or I go crazy.
absolutely. I can totally see how one would go crazy doing those kinds of itineraries. What's the most, what's the wildest like day you've had doing Earn Your Wings, just hopping around in the skies? Because I imagine there's very tight connection times too between all of these flights in a single day.
The connections actually tend not to be too bad because when you're really trying to get as many flights in a day, what tends to happen is you accidentally book the same aircraft. So I'll be on the same aircraft for 6 segments in a row. So even if there's a delay, well, the next flight's delayed, the next flight's delayed. So it tends to work out pretty well. But I don't like I get so delirious after like day 2 or 3. Like I can't even tell you what happened. I've got logs of everything though. If you go to like eyw8.canadiancow.com, you can see like a big Google Doc of like my entire itinerary and all the thoughts I had through it, and change the number to 1 through 8, and there all the histories there if you want to read up on it.
Yeah. I'll consider joining you on the next one, but I'll probably show up for one day and be like, that's enough. I'm happy being number 50 on the leaderboard and getting some rental car discounts. We've got a question over here in the chat. Let's see. Just quickly, somebody's happy to be here and learn a few travel tips. So when using an Aeroplan Visa card with one free bag, right? Do you book directly with Air Canada or use the Aeroplan number on the back of the credit card with GA? So yeah, when you book Air Canada, you either call or use the Air Canada website. And if you're booking through Aeroplan, it's the same these days. You go onto aircanada.com and you search for the flight that you want. Hope that helps. So Eric, you've just opened the EYW. So Eric, have fun reading some of Scott's rambling and I presume drunken thoughts as you're just probably right throwing back quite a few of those little bottles as you're flying back and forth in the air. For such a frequent flyer, like you must know all the AC staff and I mean obviously all the concierge members, but I'm sure you've got good relationships at the airline with the crew and with the airline in general.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. Like, there are definitely some flight attendants that I've gotten to know. One of them sadly retired. She was my favorite ever. But the crews, it really depends. Like sometimes I'll see them once and never again. Other times I'll see them like 6 times in a month. Um, I know a lot of the San Francisco ground staff though. They like me, I like them. I actually have a bag of ketchup chips with me because one of them asked me to bring them back some from Canada. So we get along quite well. The concierges, like, there's so many in like Vancouver and Toronto that like I don't really know anyone at the big hubs, but San Francisco I know fairly well. Winnipeg I used to because it was big in Earn Your Wings a few years ago, and it's a small station, but it's pretty hard to like get to know the ground staff and the flight attendants without like really taking a lot of time to like go out of your way, interact with them, and like I don't. Some of them enjoy it, some of them think you're wasting their time. So I don't know. I'll say hi, but I try not to get in their way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think a lot of them I've met are like in general I've had good experiences with Air Canada crew, especially if we're on an international flight traveling back to Canada. It's always nice to have that Canadian banter and charm and stuff. And as with any airlines, there's some bad apples, but I've had mostly good experiences. Quick thoughts on maybe the hard product side with Air Canada. Like, what's your take as a frequent flyer as one of the most frequent flyers? And what do you see as the future of the premium product? How happy are you with, let's say, Dreamliner business class and the A330 refreshments that they've done? What more would you like to see on that side in terms of, especially as a premium traveler?
So I haven't been on the new 330s yet, so I've only seen photos. I do like that you can like lower the middle divider, so if you're traveling with someone, it's a bit nicer. But I actually really like the United Polaris seats. It's extremely private if you're alone, and it's extremely intimate if you're with someone. But Air Canada, like, it's not that private, even if you're in one of the window seats, and it's still hard to have a conversation if you're in one of the middles with someone else. So it's fine. There's always the issue of the seats deflating, though. I've been given thousands of dollars of vouchers over the years because those, inflatable cushions deflate and can't be
Mhm.
reinflated. I've certainly woken up to a pain in my ass from those on numerous occasions. Um, but it's I don't know. It's fine, but it's certainly not my favorite.
And the deflate gate, right, as it's known, with the seats just. Psst. Okay, interesting. You mentioned Polaris. I've never flown it before. I would like to, but I also feel like I don't want to spend too long on it. How's service on United compared to Air Canada though, in terms of both, let's say, the food and the service, soft product in general?
I think right now the food on United is better, but like Air Canada is like 2 months ago, like it was substantially different than it is today. So that like it's slowly getting back to pre-COVID. So I don't know. Right now, it's the food sucks on Air Canada. Although I had a really good butter chicken out of London last Monday, but I don't know. I'm waiting for it to get back to pre-COVID levels. But other than that, I like United Air Canada. They're all like North American employees.
Hmm.
They're generally good. They're not amazing, but they're also, they're friendly. They're not subservient. Um,
Yeah,
I've I get a little uncomfortable in some of the Asian airlines.
just with the subservient service culture.
Yeah,
Yeah, some people like it, some people think it's a bit much, but yeah, the whole, on Eva Air, you've got the flight attendants kneeling by your seat. On Air China, you've got them unpacking the slippers, putting it by your feet. It's can't imagine like one of the especially like a more senior AC flight attendant doing that. Just can't imagine. You mentioned you were in London, so already embarking on some international trips.
yeah. I mean, I've done some international stuff throughout COVID. I actually lived in Croatia for a month last year. I gave up my apartment and
Nice.
went traveling. So I never had hotel status before, really, and then I ended up living in hotels for 6 months. So now I have top status basically everywhere. But yeah, so I did Croatia last year. I did Mexico and Turkey earlier this year. I just did Germany and the UK. I'm booked to Korea in October, but I don't think that's going to happen. Um, but yeah, I try to keep traveling. It's more fun than sitting around at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've also got plans for Vancouver 2 weeks from now,
Oh, I do I? I'm not sure.
right? We'll be seeing you. It's we'll be seeing you at the Vancouver signature event. And what was your motivation for coming? If you could share with the audience.
I mean, like, I have so many friends in Vancouver. Any excuse to come here is worth it. But I don't. It looks kind of interesting. I've been to various miles and points events before. I've been to like frequent traveler university in the US. I've gone to Points U in Canada a couple times, but figured I'd try something new, see if it's worthwhile. I really do like how the Air Canada execs are, taking questions from people and, being very upfront about everything. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, and I mean, open bar, like I know a lot of people complained about how expensive the event was, but like, yeah, give me the open bar. That's why I'm going.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having you there, and obviously having a lot of both the Air Canada execs and everybody who's interested in voicing their questions and getting their questions answered. So it promises to be a good time. For those of you who are maybe on the fence, we've got 2 tickets left to sell. So take action if you're interested. I'm really looking forward to the event, having Scott there and having Derek and Scott from Air Canada and a lot of our familiar faces and friends in the points community too. Speaking of the points community, I did want to get your take, Scott, on so you're big on Flyer Talk, right? Flyertalk.com. For those who are unfamiliar, it's like the world's frequent flyer forum. People who travel often, people who fly often, love to share their experiences and just chat on the forum. It's obviously a valuable source of information if you're just starting out, but I find like a lot of people let me know that they find just the culture on the forum to be hostile to newbies. Seems to be a very common point of feedback. So as somebody who posts on Flyer Talk regularly, what's your perspective on that? Do you think it's like it's that way by design? Do you think it's it's kind of challenging by design, or it could be improved in that sense?
I think it really depends, and even like different forums are drastically different. But I mean, like the Air Canada forum, which is where I spend my time, like I can appreciate why you would think that, but like from my perspective as someone who spends a lot of time on it and reads every post, like it gets a little bit annoying when someone starts a new thread to ask a question that was answered in the thread that was already at the top of the list. And like I might get a little snarky at newbies when they do that, but like chances are if you have a question, it's been answered already and the information's probably readily available there. So if you just want to go there for information, like search, read the threads that sound like they might have what you want. But yeah, I mean, new people ask questions all the time, and there's always people who will answer the questions and help people out. So yeah, like if especially for anything related to like status, it's pretty good. We figured out how everything works, and we put the information out there for everyone. So there's a lot of good information there.
Absolutely. I'd also add that like I find Flyer Talk very valuable for like people's experiences at specific hotels or properties or even airline products, especially more recently compared to what might have been published out there. And it's always kind of nice to know exactly what to expect, maybe from somebody who visited this past week or this past month. That's why I visit Flyer Talk the most. And I think for newbies, it's like it's important to set expectations as you go in there and try to learn the spirit of the community. Have you ever spent time on the Tricket forum with fuel dumping? Because I'm curious. We haven't chatted about this, and you are a software engineer who feels like you'd be easily be able to figure that stuff out and find the cheap hacks and stuff. So what's your thoughts on fuel dumping?
I've looked at it before. I've never really figured it out. I don't really understand how it works or why it works, but I don't even think I've ever booked a ticket with a fuel dump. I'm
Really?
not saying I wouldn't. Like I just flew a $1 base fare to Europe that had $1,400 in YQ. So like yeah, like I'd love to learn how that works, and I'm happy to write some software if it helps things. But I don't understand it well enough to do anything.
Okay, so my understanding basically, and for anybody who's watching, is there's like specific techniques that you can book paid airline tickets with, where every airline ticket is a base fare component and a fuel surcharge, and then a bunch of other taxes and fees. And sometimes airlines will price the fuel surcharge as a huge part of the fare. And because the ways I think the way that systems talk to each other, if you book tickets in a certain combination, you can get the whole fuel surcharge to be dropped from the fare and end up paying a really cheap, kind of like generating your own mistake fares if you know what you're doing. So to give a concrete example, I once booked a ticket that looked like Boston to Lisbon to London and back on TAP Air Portugal, followed by a domestic Argentina flight on Aerolíneas Argentinas. The whole thing's on one ticket. Having that last flight in there dropped the surcharge on the TAP flight. So I ended up paying 200 US round trip to London, which back then was like a decent deal. It's a topic we could dedicate, entire videos and streams to, but that's kind of a high level explanation. I feel like Scott, you'd be able to figure it out pretty easily if you just spent like an hour on it, because you spend an hour on the tool.
Yeah, I don't know. I've tried reading those threads and understanding it, but I don't understand when you can dump the fuel and when you can't. I don't know. Like I don't get it.
It's a bit of a black box for sure. But you did mention that you hunt for cheap fare deals and mistake fares on your own. So you can kind of go into as much detail as you'd like. But are there any helpful hints you can throw people's way here as they look for cheaper fares? I know there's certain U.S. origins perhaps that like Air Canada likes to do sales out of. What's your experience there?
I get an email when anyone posts anything in the premium fare deals forum on Flyer Talk. Occasionally, someone will message me privately about something, but I don't really do my own hunting. Too much effort.
That's true. I mean, following premium fair deals, that's another one of Flyer Talk's gold mines. If you just follow the forum, actually, I think you can just subscribe to an RSS feed and they'll post like some of the deals they post are good for like cheaper compared to historical levels, but only by a little bit. You might consider using that if you're the type who would normally pay for premium travel, but sometimes they post like bonkers fares, the kind of mistake fares that we all hope and dream to see. And that's oftentimes where they first surface. So that's another, area of Flyer Talk that we'd love to go and subscribe to. Scott, what's coming up? What's coming up next after, let's say, so you've got Vancouver in 2 weekends. What's your agenda for the next month and end of 2021 or so?
I've got a lot of mileage runs actually. I've got a few Frankfurt immediate turns, although I'm thinking about canceling all of those. I have a Hong Kong immediate turn at the end of October for mileage. My 2 week Korea trip in October, but I have no idea if that's happening. Going to Halifax in October to see some friends. I'm going to Barcelona for a week in November. And then Toronto for Christmas. But I think that's about it.
Hopping around all over the place, eh? Is Hong Kong gonna be open for an immediate turn?
No idea.
You're just gonna, I guess, show up at the airport and see if you can board.
Well, I think I'll figure it out before getting to the airport. But yeah, I like a lot of these tickets I booked 8 to 12 months ago, so I didn't know that I'd still have issues by now.
True. I think that, that's the same for many of us too. How about in terms of future tools that we can expect to see from canadiancow.com? Like anything that's brewing in your mind where you can like offer surprise value to the community too?
Nothing comes to mind. Yeah, I'm not working on anything. I have no plans to start working on anything, but usually they come out because I'm having a problem with something and I want to solve my own problem. But if other people have ideas for stuff, I can consider anything.
Last question we've got here, a very interesting one in the chat. The question is, does Scott still dislike churners? So people who apply for a bunch of credit cards to get the points. I'm curious, did you dislike churners and why? And do you still?
Who asked that question?
His name's Spoofy, so I have no idea.
I mean, a little bit. I spend a lot of money. I fly hard. I like using my benefits. I like being able to redeem my points for the seats I want. And yeah, sometimes it's a little annoying to know that someone just signed up for 10 credit cards. Now they get the first class seat I want. But I don't know. I mean, like, whatever. People do what they want to do, and just have to learn how to play the game and win the game.
For sure. I think we all play the game, win the game in different ways that suits us. And yeah, we respect the hustle from across the board, including yours, right? So on that note, Scott, thanks for joining us for the hour. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy travel day and even shuffling some flights around to be here on the live stream. I really appreciate it. I know the viewers do as well. And again, like big thank you for the AC Rewards Search Space Searcher tool. That's helped me change a bunch of itineraries without having to do the slow way on aircanada.com. So yeah, a heartfelt thank you from everyone here who uses the tool, and hope it can, may it continue for very long, because it's very valuable. And we're eagerly looking forward to any other tools that you may have coming in the pipeline. And for now, I'll see you in 2 weeks at the Vancouver event. Hopefully some of the crowd here will see you too. But yeah, thanks for joining. It's been a pleasure to have you, and have a safe rest.
It was great to be here, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Awesome, Scott. All right, well, we'll chat soon. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so that was Scott Kennedy, aka Canadian Cow, and I really enjoyed that conversation. It's always great to see people from different who approach the game in different ways, who are all about travel, but maybe take a different approach than we sometimes do. There was, yeah, Spoofy commenting in here about thanks for the tools, but does he still dislike churners? I know some people do, like to pay money for their flights. Some people like to get a bunch of credit cards, earn a bunch of points, and redeem for flights. And it's a very, diverse and fun community as a result of that variety. So I've got to run as well. I have some dinner plans to make, and it is getting dark here in Toronto. But I've, again, really enjoyed hanging out with you guys for this past hour. I hope you guys had a great time. We will probably do the next live stream, not next weekend because I'm flying back to Vancouver at around the same time. Probably also not the weekend after that because that's the Sunday after our Saturday event, and I'll probably just want to take it easy, hang out at home for a little bit. It's going to be a pretty busy time, pretty exhausting time. So I'm going to say, yeah, let's hang out in 3 weeks time. Maybe I'll surprise you in 2 weeks, but maybe not. We'll definitely hang out in 3 weeks time. If you want to see a live stream before that, as always, Prince of Travel members get access to extra live streams. So that's something that you can consider joining if you're interested. But otherwise, it's been fun as always. So thank you all. And we will, those of you asking where to get the Air Canada rewards-based search tool, just scroll up in the chat and I put the links there a few times. Anyway, thanks guys. And we'll chat soon. Bye.